Welcome to Bowties, sometimes called myself, Ashley, and Ed. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Ash. How's things this evening?
Very good, thank you. Very good. I am tired though. I am tired. So, but that's good. I'll sleep well this evening. Anyway, this evening we're going to be talking about
Back to the Future.
a 1985 classic. Yeah, the 80s were just absolutely fantastic for movies. It was just a brilliant time. I don't know whether it was just really good writers or I don't know. For me, unless it's just because it's my childhood, it just seemed like there was a lot of money that went into filmmaking at that time.
85, I think for me, is my favourite year of films ever. I think I was 13, so I was old enough to go to the cinema on my own without my mum and dad. But it just seemed to be every week there was something amazing on. And, it wasn't like now with your multiplexes where you had 10 or 12 films in one place. You had one cinema that showed one film for either 1 week, 2 weeks. If it was popular, it'd be on for a few weeks. And Back to the Future was one of those ones that was on in a local cinema in Llandudno, which is now a KFC. It was on, I think it was Octoberish, was it? Am I right in saying it was quite late 85?
It was December even.
December 85.
Yeah.
I must have seen it 2 or 3 times in that December because I loved it that much. It's one of the best films of the 80s, definitely.
It is an absolute classic, and Michael J. Fox is brilliant in it. Or really we should call him his actual name, Michael Andrew Fox. J stands for nothing. Interesting fact. So yeah, he was brilliant in it, and although little fact there, he was. Unlike a lot of films that we talk about, Michael J. Fox was the first choice for Marty McFly. But he couldn't do it initially because he was in Family Ties. One of the cast members of Family Ties, I can't think who it was pregnant on maternity, so he was filling in. He had more screen time, so he couldn't really get out of doing that, and so they cast Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz did it for about 6-7 weeks. I think between him and the director and so on, they all came to the agreement that actually it just wasn't working, and he left the project. By which time, Michael J. Fox was able to take up the role, and the rest is history, as they say.
And was Christopher Lloyd the first choice for Doc Brown?
No, first choice for Doc Brown was John Lithgow.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually can see John Lithgow as I didn't know definitely he would work.
He was the first choice, yeah. But then obviously Christopher Lloyd did it. So there we are. But I think Eric Stoltz is still in. He's still in the film in a couple of scenes. I think there was a couple of scenes that were shot where it was only the back of his head. So I think he's still in it a couple of times. But talking about, I suppose, people who are in it and not in it. I mean, Marty McFly's dad, George McFly, played by Crispin Glover in the first film, isn't he? Yeah, but not in the 2 or 3. But he sued them about that because he sued them because they used his likeness without his consent. Because if you think about it, film 2, I mean, I didn't know that wasn't the same actor.
I had no idea.
Yeah, no. So so apparently, I don't know, he got about nearly 800,000, I think, off them. 2 personally is my favourite one, if I have to be honest. 3, I don't think they needed to make really, but there we are.
It's almost like a contractual obligation film, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It feels a bit that way, yeah. 2, definitely my favourite, just because it's just so, I feel it's so clever in terms of showing the same scenes from 1, but again, and from different angles. And then, seeing characters. I just find it a very clever film.
Marty, you must be extremely careful not to run into your other self.
My other self?
Yes! Remember, your mother is at that exact same dance with you. Yeah.
Right. This could get heavy, Doc.
Heavy. Marty, whatever happens, you must not let your other self see you. The consequences could be disastrous. Excuse me, sir.
But number 1, which loads of people love and is a classic, I mean, there wasn't that much visual effects in it. I think there's only something like 30 lots, less, well, certainly less than 40 visual effects in it. It's a sci-fi film, but there's not it's more of it's sort of character and story based as well.
Yeah, it's more character and time travel than actual inverted commas sci-fi in a Star Trek sort of way, I suppose. It's you're right. It's about people. It's about someone getting. It's your classic story of someone lost trying to get home.
It's not really till the second one where you see a little bit more, where you've got your flying cars and so on and so forth. The first one is more bog standard film, but then again, I suppose the budget would have, obviously that was reflected by the budget. I think the budget was something like about 18, 19 million, and it took about 340 million in the box office. So obviously that probably justified the fact that the second film could be so much bigger. So I know I've said two's the one for me. What about you?
Do you know, I see 1 and 2 as the same as chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the same story. It's very, very difficult to choose between them. I mean, as long-time listeners and your good self know, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. Now, Doctor Who, a show allegedly about time travel, didn't do time travel very often in the first run. This film was an actual time travel film, and it all seemed to fit. It was almost like a puzzle box. It all fitted together like an amazing jigsaw. It had cause and effect. Marty going back into the past caused the future to disappear, and his actions in the past had an effect on the future. But there was no cheating. There was no. It wasn't cheap. It was everything seemed earned in it. If you know what I mean by the writing, the writing all hung together and made sense. There was no that I can think of glaring plot holes and cheats. It's really for a family film. It's really, really quite hard sci-fi, high concept, but it's done in such a way that it doesn't alienate the audience.
Now, should we have a look at some facts, Ed? Because we tend to do facts.
We like facts.
We like some facts, right? Have you got any facts, Ed?
I haven't got any facts, but you said I was just adding on to how things hang together brilliantly. Back to the Future 2, the very, very end, where Doc's just been blasted off into the past, and suddenly a postman comes round the corner with a letter for Marty that he's had for 70 years. And my mind was well and truly blown because it's fatalism. Doc had, again, it's a closed loop. Doc was destined to do that. It could not happen because that the Wells Fargo company or someone had always had that letter. It was always there. And it's just so tightly written. So we won't talk about the third one because that's more of an action adventure without this. But the first two chapters of the same film. It's like one 3-hour film.
And for someone who likes Doctor Who, it's a dream come true.
Yeah, it's time travel done properly without the Matt Smith, Stephen Moffat era cheating.
Oh, controversial.
True.
So, Edward, facts. In the original script, Doc Brown and Marty sell bootleg videos in order to fund the time machine, but the plot was removed by Universal because they didn't want to be seen to promote movie piracy. There's only here we are. There's only 32 visual effects in the entire film. There's only 3 DeLoreans used. Canadian pop singer Corey Hart was asked to screen test for the part of Marty. This film was almost titled Spaceman from Pluto. Well, cameo. Oh, Huey Lewis is in it.
I didn't know that. Where's he a cameo? Is he at the dance?
Musician Mark Campbell, who was apparently a lead singer for the 1980s band Jack Mack and the Heart Attack.
Never heard of
bells with me.
No, don't ring any bells.
But anyway, he sang, or Martin, he did the singing for Michael J. Fox. He's credited in the film as Marty McFly, apparently. During the time cameo, London Comic Con. So the scene where Doc Brown sort of slides down from the clock tower on the cable is the only scene that's repeated in all three films. So, I mean, the set as well, the actual where the clock tower and what have you.
Oh, Hill Valley.
Yeah, it's actually used in Gremlins as well.
I was about to say, yeah, I knew that.
Yep. When DeLorean is introduced and Doc Brown comes out of it, smoke is pouring out of the interior of the car. This never happens again and is never explained. Not sure that's the best fact ever, but yeah, I suppose, okay, we'll have that.
It's a fact. It's not a great fact.
But it's a fact nonetheless. Well, despite the fact that there's lots of facts about Back to the Future, I can't really find any that are short enough and that people won't fall asleep on. So
they're not very interesting facts either, but they are facts.
They are, yeah, they're facts. Yeah. I think what we'll do is we'll just play probably a couple of scenes and sign off.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
The way I...
Hey, McFly!
Well, actually, I figured since it wasn't due till Monday...
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think, McFly, think. What? You're George McFly.
I'm gonna ram!
Hey, you, get your damn hands off.
Oh, I think you got the wrong car, McFly.
No, Biff. You leave her alone. I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But your kids are gonna love it.
Well, guys, that was that.
So we've had a bit of a look at the first two Back to the Future films. We've mentioned the third Back to the Future film, but I haven't really gone into it in depth because, to be honest, it's not that great. And on that bombshell, I've been Ed.
I've been Ash.
And we have been Bow Ties Are Sometimes Cool. Good night.